the state of the Sacramento Kings franchise. I guess there is a scenario where it's a good thing when you're talking about the state of the franchise, but I think normally when you're talking about the state of a franchise, it's because bad things are happening. It's because the Sacramento Kings are at a crossroads right now. Because so far, 30 games into this season, it's kind of been a disaster. Multiple things have gone wrong. Your big move was adding DeMar DeRozan. In the last 3 games, he's been, non-existent. The offense hasn't looked good at all. You look at your bench, and you don't see very many playable players. And you have the crowd chanting for Keon Ellis when you're not playing Keon Ellis, and you have De'Aaron Fox rumors about, wanting this team to make moves to win, or else he's gonna leave. So, like I said, it's a crossroads. It's absolutely a crossroads for this team right now. But the franchise has only done it to itself because it failed to make moves quickly. And so they've kind of put themselves under a time crunch. 2 years ago, they had Sabonis and Fox lead this team to the playoffs. The playoffs exposed concerns about this roster, and then they failed to make moves quickly after that to build correctly around your 2 stars. And they've continued to fail to do so since. And so now you still have the opportunity to build a good roster around this team. It's still possible to win with the core that you have. But now the problem comes from the De'Aaron Fox timeline, where he has one more season after this season under contract. You either have to retain him or you have to trade him. If De'Aaron Fox leaves for nothing, then you're just screwed as a franchise. So that's the one thing that you can't have happen. And so that's what I mean when I say you've put yourself under a time crunch and you've taken too long to make moves, because now you have, 2 options. You could blow it up, or you could go out and make trades to try to make this team better. The problem is, if you go out and you make trades and they don't work, well, now you've mortgaged your future and you don't really have any time to try to fix it again, right? You really only got one shot at this because of how long Fox has on his contract and how he's obviously willing to explore other options. And that is well within his right when he's been here for however long he's been here, since 2017, and you haven't put, a real winning team around him other than making the playoffs for 1 year, making the play-in another year. And so when you just look at the roster that the Kings have, when you have your top 4 of Sabonis, Fox, DeMar, and Monk, those are your 4 top players, and those 4 are probably not going anywhere. As much as some people will, want the Kings to explore trades around DeMar DeRozan now. It's like you just signed him. It seems very unlikely that that would happen. So you have this top 4. You have Keegan Murray on a rookie deal. And then after that, you have a bunch of guys who either have 1 year or 2 years left on their deals, who are just kind of either not working out or guys that may be required in trades. Because right now, it seems like it's going to need to be more than one move to fix the Kings. Because, I think the entire rest of the roster kind of needs an overhaul. Because when you look at guys like Trey Lyles has 1 year left on his deal. Your bench guys are, Doug McDermott and Alex Len and Jordan McLaughlin and Orlando Robinson and Jay Crowder. And I'm purposefully leaving out certain other guys on the bench because we do have a few young guards. But when you look at what you need to build around a core of Fox and Sabonis, and now that you've added DeRozan plus Monk, you need length and you need athleticism. And when the guys off the bench are Trey Lyles, Kevin Huerter, Doug McDermott, when you're running an 8-man rotation with those 3 guys off the bench, that's just not going to work. And so that's why, to me, it seems like, it's not just going to be bring one guy in to save this team. And that's where it gets difficult, because it's hard to make more than one move to be able to improve your roster. And that is why the front office has failed for a couple years now, because instead of slowly building the right roster around your guys, they just kind of slowly did nothing. It's not even that, Trey Lyles, he's been a very good player the past few years. Kevin Herter has actually shown some solid things this year, despite not shooting great from three. It's not even that they're necessarily bad players, but it's about the fit. And so right now, it just seems like this team has like no will. They seem defeated. And we've seen it many times with many different teams where a trade can absolutely kind of jumpstart a team again. And we saw this team play well at the start of the season with certain flaws. And so if you want to look at it from the optimistic point of view, you say, okay, well, how the Kings have played in these last few games isn't truly who they are. We should look back to the beginning of the season. That's more who they are. A high scoring team that can play some okay defense at times that, struggled to gel at the end of games to close games. So let's say that's who the Kings are. Well, then it is possible to fix this roster, but you just need length, you need athleticism, you need size. In my opinion, you need one guy that's going to slide into the starting lineup, a wing, a defensive wing that's going to slide into the starting lineup that would either replace Malik Monk or DeMar DeRozan, probably Malik Monk. And I say that because of Monk's size. He's already come off the bench and he can lead the bench unit. But if it were DeRozan, that's a possibility as well. But then I also think you need another guy off the bench to be a defensive wing, or at least a big off the bench that can block some shots that you can rely on, because right now we just don't have that reliably. Because Alex Len hasn't really performed. Orlando Robinson, just, he, as a 24-year-old, he hasn't shown that he has it all together. And I think Isaac Jones has been very solid, but I think you need a little more than him. Because I think Isaac Jones is a guy that can maybe play the 4, maybe play the 5, and so you could slide him into a lineup alongside another big or a wing. And so it doesn't really matter. I don't really care which one it is, but I think they need another bench piece that's going to add that defense and athleticism to this team. And so I've already, talked about trade candidates in previous videos, Dorian Finney-Smith, John Collins, guys like that. The problem is going to be acquiring them. And this Kings organization, has not shown the ability to really acquire those types of guys at a trade deadline. They have made like one move at a trade deadline, which was the Sabonis move. Other than that, you've seen Kessler Edwards be your biggest move at a trade deadline. And so when you look at the assets that the Kings have, they have this pick that they owe to the Atlanta Hawks at some point. So 2025 is top 12 protected. If it doesn't convey, it goes 2026 top 10 protected. If that doesn't convey, then we give them our 26 and 27 second round picks. And so it's possible you work something out with Atlanta to give them the pick and free up some other picks, right? So you could give them the 2025 pick, and then that would free up you to be able to trade 27, 29, and the 31 pick that you already have swapped with the Spurs. But more likely, you have the 28 pick and you have the 30 pick. Those are really the 2 first round picks that you have to work with right now. And you don't have a lot of second round draft picks to work with because you've already traded it for DeRozan and in other trades and in salary dumps. And so right now, from my viewpoint, the Kings have 6 guys that you can keep on this roster. De'Aaron Fox, Domantas Sabonis, DeMar DeRozan, Malik Monk, Keegan Murray. And then off the bench, right now, who's coming off the bench, is Keon Ellis. Those are your 6 guys that I feel like could work for the rest of the season if you're then able to add 2 more solid guys to create an 8-man rotation around them. And that could be an 8-man rotation that then has a 9th man of Isaac Jones or Orlando Robinson, Alex Len, those guys to kind of really round it out as your depth pieces. And so that means the guys available for trade are Kevin Herter, Trey Lyles, Devin Carter possibly. That's an interesting situation with him being out injured. And then a Colby Jones if anyone's interested. And so that's the path that I see for the Kings to be able to continue to move with this core and be able to compete this season. But I think you need to make multiple moves or, in one big move that you make to be able to improve this roster. But the bottom line is something needs to change. And some people will say that the coach needs to change. And if you think that, then that's a fine opinion to have. But I personally don't think that. But whatever you do, if you're trying to compete now, it's a super risky situation because you're going to give up those future assets and you're going to risk losing De'Aaron Fox. And so then the safer move that is a little harder to swallow is blowing it up because no one likes to blow it up. And, we want to see this team compete. And obviously, all Kings fans have grown attached to this team and the core. But blowing it up is probably the safer move. And you're finally in a position where you have valuable assets that you could trade. I mean, you could get a haul for De'Aaron Fox, and then whoever else you would trade at that point. You could get a lot of assets back to jumpstart a rebuild. And it would be kind of fun to, see Malik Monk try to run a team on his own if he's a guy you didn't trade. That's a possible situation. But honestly, I think like both paths can work. Both blowing it up and going for it now can work. But just the going for it now path is scary because of how risky it is. But at the same time, there's not a lot of times in Sacramento Kings history that you've had the talent that we have right now on a roster in Domantas Sabonis and De'Aaron Fox, among others. But we just need a move sooner rather than later because right now it doesn't seem like this roster is going to be able to kind of tread water until the trade deadline. The hope was you could just keep your head above water. The offense would be so good this season that you could keep your head above water until the trade deadline, where then you could get the defensive help that you need. But that doesn't seem to be the case. This seems to already be a dead team, so you need to. You're in desperation mode. And again, that is the position that the front office has put itself in. It's put itself in a position where you kind of have to make a desperation move right now. So whatever the front office and ownership decides to do, they just need to pick a path because the one thing you can't do is just sit here and do nothing. Hopefully, by the time that you're watching this video or listening to this, hopefully something has happened because I feel like it needs to happen very, very soon, or else the rumor mill around this team is just kind of gonna get crazier and crazier, and things could possibly get worse and worse. It feels like we've hit rock bottom, but it's possible that we could just keep on falling. But the one thing you can't do is stay in the middle, lose your pick to the Hawks, and then still not make the playoffs. This team needs to pick a path and go all in for it. And so that is it for this episode of The Roll Report. As always, shout out to the members of this channel, No Rain and Joe Mama, for the support. Let me know what you guys think the Kings should do, what you want them to do, and I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.